After the heavy aftermath of the previous duel, Episode 6 opens with a completely different atmosphere. Yugi Muto's victory still lingers, but instead of celebration, the story shifts toward the consequences that follow. Somewhere else, Seto Kaiba appears no longer the overwhelming figure we saw before. His defeat to Yugi has clearly left a deep impact. Without needing many words, just through his expression and demeanor, viewers can see it clearly. Kaiba is haunted by that loss. It wasn't just losing a duel, it was losing in a way he simply cannot accept. The pacing slows down, focusing on Kaiba's inner thoughts. Memories, reflections, and wounded pride begin to surface. This moment is important because it shows that Kaiba isn't just a cool rival, but a character with depth, someone who cannot easily accept defeat. Meanwhile, back with Yugi, everyday life seems to continue as usual. He and his friends don't dwell too long on the victory. But something has changed, the way others look at Yugi. People are beginning to realize that he isn't ordinary. Behind that gentle appearance lies an incredible power. Small details, subtle glances, and short lines of dialogue all help build the sense that after the duel with Kaiba, things have started to change. And then, a new sign appears. Another threat slowly begins to emerge. The story begins to shift as the focus moves away from the aftermath of the previous duel. A new character slowly steps into the spotlight: Maximilian Pegasus. Pegasus's introduction isn't loud or dramatic, yet it carries a very different feeling. Unlike a direct rival like Seto Kaiba, Pegasus radiates mystery and unpredictability. From the very first moments, viewers can sense it. This is an entirely new kind of threat. The camera focuses on the way Pegasus observes people. It's not just a normal look, it feels like he's reading them. Every gesture, every smile he gives carries an unsettling undertone. Then an important detail is revealed. Pegasus doesn't just know about Yugi Muto, he's particularly interested in him. Not simple curiosity, but the kind of interest someone has when they already have a plan. On Yugi's side, everything initially seems normal. But soon he begins to feel that something isn't right, as if someone is watching him from afar. The atmosphere slowly shifts from calm to uneasy. Then something unexpected happens. Yugi is suddenly pulled into a strange conversation, not face to face, but through an invisible connection. And on the other side is Pegasus. This is an extremely important moment. For the first time, Yugi faces an opponent who doesn't even need to stand in front of him to apply pressure. Pegasus speaks calmly, almost teasingly, yet every word sends chills down the spine. He doesn't just know about Yugi, he understands him far more than he should. At this point, it no longer feels like a duel, it feels more like an experiment. Pegasus is testing Yugi little by little, as if evaluating whether he is worthy of becoming his opponent. This segment ends with a quiet tension. No explosive action, but the feeling is clear: a confrontation far greater than the one with Kaiba is approaching. And then, the duel begins. From the very first moves, the difference between Pegasus and previous opponents becomes obvious. If Seto Kaiba relied on power and overwhelming strategy, Pegasus plays in a way that is much harder to understand. He smiles, even when he hasn't done anything yet, a soft smile but enough to make his opponent uneasy. Yugi plays carefully as usual, thinking through each move, but very quickly, he realizes something is wrong. Pegasus seems to know every move before Yugi even makes it, not guessing, knowing. Every card Yugi plans to use, every strategy that forms in his mind, Pegasus reacts instantly, as if he can see straight into Yugi's thoughts. The balance of the duel shifts immediately. For the first time, Yugi is no longer in control. Every move he makes is anticipated. This is completely different from facing Kaiba. It's not about raw power, but about having his thinking suffocated. The pressure rises. Yugi begins to hesitate, not because he lacks strategy, but because he can't use it normally anymore. Every decision becomes harder when Pegasus already seems to know what he will do. On the other side, Pegasus remains completely relaxed. No rush, no tension, as if he's playing a game whose outcome is already decided. By the end of this segment, the gap between them becomes clear. Without even making massive plays, Pegasus steadily pushes Yugi into a disadvantage. And the most frightening part is that Yugi still hasn't found a way to break it. An opponent Yugi cannot read, but who can read him completely? This duel is no longer just difficult. It almost feels unfair. Pushed into a disadvantage, Yugi Muto finally realizes the core problem. This duel isn't fair, not because of the rules, but because of his opponent. Maximilian Pegasus always seems to be one step ahead, but Yugi no longer sees it as coincidence. He quickly reaches a conclusion: Pegasus can read minds. A crazy theory, yet the only explanation that makes sense. The moment Yugi realizes this, his playstyle changes. Instead of building complex strategies, he simplifies everything, limiting his thoughts, limiting predictions, even trying to act in ways that feel illogical. It's a fascinating shift. From a player who relies on calculation, Yugi is forced to rely on instinct. He still smiles, but that smile is slightly different now. A hint of surprise, a hint of excitement. Yugi hasn't completely broken Pegasus's ability, but he has achieved something important. He disrupted the perfection. Pegasus's moves are no longer flawless. Even if the difference is small, it proves one thing: Pegasus is not unbeatable. The pressure is no longer one-sided. The duel begins to rebalance, not in power, but in spirit. Yugi has regained his footing, and more importantly, he has found a way to challenge an opponent who once seemed impossible to fight. By the end of this section, one thing becomes clear: this is no longer a duel between two players. It is a clash of two ways of thinking, and Yugi has begun to find his path. As the duel reaches its final moments, the confrontation between Yugi Muto and Maximilian Pegasus is no longer simply about winning or losing. It is a test, and Pegasus already has his answer. Even though Yugi has begun adapting and partially resisting Pegasus's mind-reading ability, it still isn't enough to completely turn the tide. Pegasus continues controlling the game in his own way, without rushing, without using his full strength. Then he stops, not because he can't finish the duel, but because he doesn't need to. The most unsettling moment is when Pegasus ends the duel on his own terms. It shows that the difference between them isn't just about strategy, it's about position. Pegasus is the one who set the rules from the very beginning. Before leaving, Pegasus delivers a challenge. Not a simple taunt, but an invitation to a much bigger stage. A tournament, a place where things will no longer be experiments, but a true battle. Back on Yugi's side, he stands silently after the connection is cut. There is no victory, but not exactly defeat either. Yet the feeling left behind is heavier than any loss. He has encountered a completely different kind of opponent. Not like Seto Kaiba, someone who cannot be understood through normal logic. But because of that, Yugi realizes he must become stronger, not just with his cards, but with himself. The episode ends with a very clear feeling: this is only the beginning.
A much larger door has uppgård lite the train next time. It will no longer duel. Everything will be decided on a far greater stage.